Over two legs, Spurs 1, Liverpool 0 then going into the second leg. Frank and Luis are with us, but Stevie, I just want to start with you. Well, everyone is talking about the incident and not the second yellow. Let's go over that first.
And one of the reasons we're talking about the incident is because how bad a game it was, because there really wasn't that many other incidents anyway, but it just so happened that this incident is what defined the game and what separated the two teams, because both teams were as bad as each other. Referees got it wrong. No question Bergvall should have had a second yellow. And the fact that Tsimikas has to go off tells you that it's a bad challenge. But of course, the fourth official not letting Tsimikas back on the field leaves a hole at the back, which Tottenham take advantage of. I mean, that's part of the game. When you get a sniff, you've got to take it, and Tottenham did that. And in the end, it was a great strike from Bergvall. Just unfortunate. He shouldn't have been on the field. But listen, if you're Liverpool, you can absolutely moan about that, but you've got to Liverpool have to look at themselves. I mean, they basically carried on from where they left off against Man United. Their passing was awful, and they just never had any control of the game. The two things that they've done all season in almost every single game, great passing, controlling the match, none of that tonight.
It's a funny old game, Frank, isn't it? Because just a few days ago we had Ange Postecoglou complaining, obviously, that Spurs only lost to Newcastle because they weren't playing on a fair and level playing surface. Yet this time it's the decision, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, that goes in Spurs' way.
Yeah, football is very strange, and sometimes you have a bad karma, and the day after it's a fantastic one. And when you're lucky, when it's your day, it's really your day. I mean, that's incredible, because that game was very boring. You know, I predicted a win from Tottenham. I didn't expect to see that game. I thought Liverpool would come with a C team, so I think it's why Tottenham will win. But it wasn't the case. Liverpool came with, let's say, with a A.5 team, but it wasn't good. I mean, maybe because of the trauma of the Betancourt injury broke, some spirit, and players weren't there anymore. But that was bad. That was really bad from two teams who normally entertain the world with their football, but it wasn't there. And we needed bad referees and bad decisions to enjoy the game and to have something to talk about. Thank you very much, the four guys, and the VAR, because yes, Bergvall shouldn't have been on the field. Tsimikas should have been back, and Bergvall therefore wouldn't have scored. So, story to say, it's not fair for Liverpool, but I think it's not done yet. We have another leg, and I think Liverpool will do the job.
That's the rubbish part. Like whoever you support, just play it over one leg, Luis, because clearly that played on the Liverpool players' minds today, didn't it? They weren't as intense as we're used to seeing them all season, knowing you've got that second leg at Anfield to come.
Yes, definitely you play with the concern that you know that you're going to have another option. You don't want to be too open, and you play away and against a good Tottenham team. So you don't want to kind of lose the game for two goals or 3 goals. But definitely it was probably one of the less attractive Liverpools that we've seen so far this season. Very sloppy, very open, no control on the game. I think that in the end, it's true that even Van Dijk was talking about, yes, that decision of the referee not to sending off the player of Tottenham, and it was clear. But on his thinking about the team and everything, he knew that the team wasn't at the stage that they should have been playing against a strong side as Tottenham. But yeah, it's true that being the first game, if you want to have a bad game, you prefer to have it right now in the first leg of Carabao Cup than in the domestic league, in the Premier League or something like that. So I think that poor game for Liverpool, that reacted a little bit in the second half with the changes, but it was not good enough. And let me say something else. A player received a kick inside the box. I know that Steve is not going to agree with me, but it's a penalty. It's that clear like that. And if the referee is not going to call it, you got the VAR to go and check it. They said that they check it, they agree with the referee. It's a kick on a player of Liverpool into the box. That's a penalty. That's it.
Well, let's go down that road. Penalty or not?
Yeah. I mean, the way that Luis describes it, then you would assume, yeah, it's a kick of a player. The problem is that you can't really define whether actually there is contact with the player and where actually the kick actually existed. Now, listen, I'm not one who's going to stand here and say, don't go down, Curtis Jones. No. I'm all for Curtis Jones going down and trying to draw a penalty and trying to draw a foul. I just don't know that from the angles that we saw, you could say 100% this is something that should be given as a penalty. Overall, though, if I may say about Liverpool, Luis mentioned the word sloppy. I would go as far as to say it was a careless performance from Liverpool. The amount of times that they kicked the ball straight out of bounds. I'm not even talking about completing the pass. I'm talking the ball just going straight out of bounds. And not because Spurs had pressure on the ball, not because Spurs were doing a great job defensively, just Liverpool lacking attention to little details that make all the difference in this game. And today, Liverpool were just not fully engaged in completing simple passes. That's not the way that we expect Liverpool to play, and give credit to Tottenham that have had all sorts of doubts and difficulties this season that said, well, you know what? At the very least, we're going to fight. And at the very least, we're going to make it difficult. They did so to the point to where they get a win.
Yeah, I think maybe we need to give Tottenham more credit than we are, Stevie. Because if we were sat and Liverpool won 3-0, we'd be like, that's it, Ange's done. He's a dead man walking. As Ali said, your team is decimated. You're playing all these reserve players, yet you go toe-to-toe with a team who is considered one of the best in the world at the moment.
I don't agree with you, Dan.
Stevie, come on.
Well, Tottenham didn't play well either.
But they get the win.
Well, no, exactly.
They get the advantage.
Yeah, they've got the advantage, but they didn't do an awful lot to gain that advantage.
But it could
the
have
reason
been,
they got the advantage is not on them.
This could have been so much worse here, couldn't it, for Spurs?
Well, let's just talk about what we saw. I mean, let's talk about what we saw. And what we saw were two teams that were really poor on the night. I mean, really poor. But it just so happened that Tottenham got that poor decision from the officials that they won the game. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's about winning the game. I can't argue with that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the narrative.
I'm not so sure we're going to run around slapping Spurs on the back for being bad.
No, but I think that's the narrative I'm spinning it if I'm Spurs, isn't it? You know, we've gone up against Liverpool. No one gave us a chance, and we've beaten them 1-0.
Yeah, well, you can spin it that way if you want. I don't see it that way. I'm looking at it not as a Tottenham or a Liverpool. I'm just looking at the game in itself, and neither side deserved to win. And Tottenham only won because the referees messed up.
I get that, Frank, but the thing is, Spurs are so desperate to hang their hat on something optimistic at the moment. This at least gives them an olive branch.
Yeah, you can get something out of it and say that you fought hard. And again, you have another injured player with Betancourt, but they kept on working and they did well for what we have seen before. And they fought hard. They showed their pride. I was quite impressed with Kinski as well in goal. I mean, I saw somebody with personality. He just signed for the club, and he already showed that his talent. And I mean, it's a young team. Yeah, they are full of wandering, but they keep on working. And yeah, winning 1-0, first leg of the Carabao Cup. It's a kind of an achievement. I have to wait for the second leg because I'm so scared of what can happen at Anfield and the punishment that they can get out of there. So enjoy while you can and see what you can do for that, what you can get out of it. But don't get carried away because he smashed back.
At the moment, it's the future of Omar Mamouche. He, of course, has been scintillating for Eintracht Frankfurt. Fantastic season for him so far. 18 goals so far with 11 assists as we welcome in Frank Leboeuf to the show. We'll be hearing Frank in a moment. Ali, of course, as someone who follows Eintracht Frankfurt and the Bundesliga very closely, how would you think he would fit in at Manchester City? Is he the missing piece?
Well, one of the missing pieces. I think the role that he could have at Manchester City, it's obviously not taken over Erling Haaland, and so how can he fit in? Well, he can do the Julian Alvarez role. Right. And that I think Omar Mamouche can bring to this team. He'll bring a change of pace that they don't quite have across the board. And he does have speed. He does have finishing qualities. Now, what's really critical for Omar Mamouche and whoever signs with Manchester City is can they make the jump? Is he good enough to make that jump? He has been really good this season. He has been lights out when it comes to finishing his chances, very clean, playing with a whole lot of confidence. That brings about a lot of expectation, and that brings about attention from clubs that perhaps you didn't think would be associated with Omar Mamouche. None of us at the beginning of the season would have been like, you know who we think would be really good for Manchester City? Would be that guy, Omar Mamouche. and yet his performances have warranted this sort of attention. If it is based on the performance that he has had with Eintracht Frankfurt, then yes, he can play an important role for Manchester City alongside Erling Haaland, certainly not in place of Erling Haaland.
What do you think, Stevie?
If you're Marmoush, you want to go and play, right?
Yeah?
I mean, there's a reason Julian Alvarez left, because he didn't play in the big games. If you're Marmoush, you have to look at that and think, is that going to be me?
Right.
I mean, forget all the stuff that's going on, whether the manager's going to stay or go, regardless of whether he signed an extension.
Whether they get relegated.
What's going to happen with the points deduction, relegate? So, I'm not so sure. If I'm Marmoush, I certainly... Look, if I'm told I'm playing, I think that changes it. But I don't think Pep's telling me he's playing.
What do you think, Frank?
I exactly think like Stevie. I mean, I tried to put my feet on Marmoush boots, and I wonder, what I would do if I were him, and I wouldn't go. If I feel that I don't have a chance to play because I have one of the best strikers in the world, one of the most efficient strikers in the world, therefore I won't have a chance to play except maybe the FA Cup, I won't go because I play. I play for Frankfurt. Yeah, it's not Manchester City, but I play. And I will have a chance to maybe seduce another club where it's going to be bigger and I can play. But what's the point to go to Manchester City and to be on the bench? Yeah, money-wise, that will make a difference. Yeah, I would say in terms of being more known than he is right now, yeah, it's a point. But we are talking about football. I was a football player. What I wanted is to play. To be on the bench, not interested. I've been a couple of times with national team, boring. Can be okay for once, but not for the whole season. So I think Omar Marmoush, if he loves football, if he's not sure to play, shouldn't go.
Now, to be fair, Omar Marmoush, when he plays for Eintracht Frankfurt, he does play alongside another striker, Hugo Ekitike. And so the question is whether Guardiola is willing to change the way he approaches the setup of his team. Marmoush can play alongside another striker. In fact, he'll play underneath, he'll play in wider areas, he'll look to combine. The other big question is Erling Haaland the sort of guy that can play alongside another striker? And that is a problem.
Now, the concern maybe as well, if I'm a Manchester City fan, is looking at the list of Eintracht Frankfurt strikers who've caught the headlines in the past and who've made big money moves away, but none of them, I think it's fair to say, have set the world on fire when you take a look at the numbers and what they did at Eintracht Frankfurt and then on to their next club.
Yeah. I suppose it's a fair observation, and I suppose that we can talk about Colomboani and Ale and Jovic and Silva and say, well, it just doesn't translate. But we can only evaluate Marmoush based upon what he's doing currently, not upon what Colomboani did or didn't do, or Jovic did or didn't do. And now you get into a whole conversation as to whether goals in Bundesliga are less worthy than goals in the Premier League. And that's a slippery slope. When you have a guy that can finish, and Marmoush has proven at least this season that he can finish consistently, then it's worth taking a look. And if you're Manchester City, it's not like you've been explosive in the attack. And so you're looking for different type of players, different type of options. Omar Marmoush would give you that.
But what are you laughing at, Frank?
Oh, because that guy will find that, I don't know, maybe one day the field won't be rectangle enough, I don't know. He will have to find any excuses. Now it's the ball, after maybe there'll be a corner flag at one point. He has to find excuses. Never because his team didn't play good enough. It's absolutely crazy. He cracks me up, really. I never thought he would go for the ball.
Well, and while whatever his opinion may be on the ball and whether there's validity to it or not, both teams play with the same ball, right? It's not like whenever Newcastle wins possession, they throw the ball out and bring a different ball in. They're both playing with the same ball. And so how it affects your team, but it doesn't affect Newcastle, that's the part that makes no sense here.
Steve Nicol. Why I'm saying that is because Steve complains about these balls a lot.
I think it's unfortunate that it's Arteta that's complaining about it. Because at the end of the day, when you play with two different balls, they perform differently. And we're always talking about the small margins in football that make the difference. And that can make a difference. Particularly with a team like Arsenal, who rely on set pieces. So whoever's putting the ball in has to go about it maybe in a slightly different manner. So again, it's not a particularly strong excuse, but it does make a difference.
There you go then. Stevie?
I'll give you an example.
Can I say, Dan, one last thing. I remember playing the Premier League, when we were playing in Newcastle, we were sometimes mentioning that the fact the ball was flying a little bit more, you know, the nearest you go to the North Pole, the ball flies more. That's a reality. And the air is more maybe dense, I would say. But it's going to be a nightmare for Arteta, because if he thinks that the ball flies already in London, he's going to see Newcastle. It's going to be terrible for him.
Let me give you a quick example. MLS Cup final.
Yep.
I don't know whether they still do it, but on a few occasions when we got to the final with the Revs, 2 days before the final, they gave us a bag of balls and said, this is the balls we're using.
Right.
Which were completely different than the balls we'd used all season. And so it makes a difference.
There it is. It
makes a difference.
Stevie lost 4 MLS Cup finals
because of the ball. I didn't want to say it. I let Dan say it. I let Dan say it. But it does make a difference.
2 of those against my teams.
But what about the ball, Ali?
Well, it didn't make a difference for us.
Wow.
Are you playing?
Last word to you,
I was on the
Luis.
field.
Oh, yeah. You must have been lying down.
No,
Couldn't
last
see
words.
it.
I agree with Ali that I think that when a factor is for both sides, it cannot be an excuse. But I also will say that this will help to the teams that they are not ready to create. Arsenal team and Arteta's team is a team to build to creation, and creation needs to be about the ball, about moving it. And if the ball is not the right one, probably they are going to suffer more than the other team. So when a golf player chooses a ball when they're going to play, I play golf and I don't care about the ball because I'm not good. But when a good player plays with a different ball because they know what to do, it makes a difference.
Spanish Union.
I guess for football.
That's what we call the Spanish Union.
Because Arteta. Is Frank all right? Alcina joins us. Luis, you just reflect on this game and you looked at it and thought, well,